Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall here. The title of tonight's episode is The Winning Staircase, and to help us be able to see if Washington can continue climbing, stepping up that staircase, is Mr. Ryan Fowler, currently a free agent, and very happy for you to join us today, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. Hope you guys are staying cool, and always appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. And the first thing we have to talk about here a little bit is, are you confident that Washington can take the next step in winning, being able to raise the bar, so to speak? Because you don't want this to be a flash in the pan. What happened
Mhm.
last year? You need to continue building. Are you confident that Washington is set up to be able to take that next step?
I am. I am. I think that's easy to say. I think is the additions that they've made on either side of the ball. But I think for me, my confidence, I know what's going to happen on offense. I think we can all expect what we think they're going to be, top five offense again this year. But it's really on defense and Joe Witt's group, getting guys in the building that he wants as far as being exotic within his front seven. You got guys now in the secondary that can really play ball and be versatile for you inside out, outside in. You got some safeties in the building. I'm excited to see what Will Harris does. I'm excited to see the progression of Quan Martin, who I think is still one of the more underrated young players in football as far as at the safety spot and his ability to play all over the place. So I just think last year, obviously, it happened so fast, right? We go so many decades of just mediocrity or trying to stay relevant, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in the NFC title game. I think if you this year, I don't know if you get to the NFC title game again. The NFC, you're not sneaking up on anybody. And
Mm.
look back to a couple years ago when the first year of Brian Daboll with the Giants, he brings them to the playoffs, and then next year you're not sneaking up on anybody. The NFL kind of comes around everything. But I feel like, guys, this is a different situation. When you got number five under center, you got a lot of different additions up front. I'm excited to see the rapport of Tunsil and Connerly on either side of the line of scrimmage, getting Cosme back healthy. The run game should be better. So, bottom line, I know it's a lot of details, and it's a lot of reasons, but I am confident that this team gets back to the playoffs this year. Let's just get there first and see what happens from there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Just being when they only had 5 draft picks this past draft, they had 9 draft picks the year before that. So technically, they had a full allotment of draft picks, 14 in the last 2 years. But you had the big three last year in Jaden, Mikey Samerstill, and Brandon Coleman that were the biggest contributors for this team out of the last year's draft picks. Then had guys like Ben Sinnott, McCaffrey, Jordan McKee was injured, came on that towards the end of the year. Out of all these second-year players, like excluding the big three that were the contributors last year, who do you think is poised to take that next step for this team this upcoming season?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the easy answer, or everyone's going to say Luke McCaffrey, because there's a lot of attention around him right now. I need to see more progression from him, but I want to see more from Ben Sinnott. He didn't have a lot of high grades from scouts as far as the athleticism in space and being an F weapon, but he does the little things well, and he did that, guys, as you saw all last year. Got in the end zone one time late on in the year, but overall, I think he needs to take a step because I think there's going to be points this year when they're on the field in 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends if they have just Sinnott and Bates. And maybe that's something that they prepare for the future, even though we all love Zach Ertz. I think we're all happy he's back, and that includes Jaden Daniels for him over the middle of the field and on high leverage downs. But I think my answer there, Mike, is definitely Ben Sinnott because I need to see him progress over the middle of the field. I want to see him progress even more as a blocker. They're going to get more expansive as far as horizontally in the run game and getting out in space. Jaden as well getting out in space. So my eyes are really on Ben Sinnott taking that step into year two as a guy that they spent high capital on day two.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure if you saw this, Ryan. I know you're a busy man. But Janky Rondo went out to Saquon Barkley's softball tournament. I think it's a charity softball tournament last night. And Brandon Graham and I think T.O. had some comments to say about Debo Samuel. Were you able to catch those?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
did.
So
Yeah.
Brandon Graham says, I wouldn't worry about him. He needs, I guess, along the lines, he needs to lose a little bit of weight. T.O. referred to Debo as fat. Not your political answer. What was your first reaction to that?
The Debo stuff, guys, is hilarious to me. It really is. I know we're pulling at some strings to try to find things to cling on to a little bit here in the middle of the summer months before we get to camp. Bottom line, it's Debo Samuel. He's been one of the most dynamic playmakers in football the last 5 years, and specifically looking back to last year with Jayden and his ability to elevate, it doesn't matter who the hell was on the outside. If it doesn't work with Debo Samuel, that's probably it's obviously gonna be an issue. It's gonna be something where we're questioning it. But I will sit here right now and be very, very confident that I feel like it's going to work. And I think Debo is going to be absolutely just fine. But again, everybody wants to talk about certain things. Everybody outside of Washington is looking for something to cling on to say, I don't really like the Debo Samuel signing. I think he's fat. I think he's this. I don't, year two of Jaden Daniels. What happened to CJ Stroud in year two? Everybody's trying to look for something to cling on to right now, really outside of DC. I've heard the Debo comments. I get it. I think Debo is. I'm good friends actually with his personal photographer, and everything I've heard from him, just being with Debo literally every day, Debo's grinding his butt off. He's doing everything he can to prep himself to be a hell of a ball player for this offense. And for me personally, I just have no worries heading into 2025. I really don't.
Yeah, when I saw that, my immediate reaction was, "Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that. I really do appreciate it because not only is Debo coming into a contract year, but when your peers say some stuff, you're gonna grind a little bit harder. It gives you
Yeah.
somebody to work towards. Sorry, Hall.
No, that's right. I mean, is Brandon didn't Brandon Graham like retire or is on the verge of retiring? So he can make those comments, not have to worry about Debo coming around the edge next year. So
Yeah.
that's what I kind of took out of it. Like I don't got to worry about him next year, so I can kind of make these comments. But you mentioned earlier the offense was probably the more stable of the two sides of the ball. A lot of continuation coming back from last year. Jaden taking that year next step. Cliff expanding the playbook as well. But the defense, like we talked about, there's a couple questions here and there. How are guys going to fit? Who's going to stay healthy? Marshon Lattimore continues to be the big the big sticking point for this defense. A lot of people have called him kind of the key player for this defense. If he stays healthy, can be 70% plus of what he's been in New Orleans, then this defense is makes like a big turnaround. Do you see that happening? And what are your expectations for Marshon? And do you see this defense kind of being the turnover machine that they were in Dallas that Joe Witt and Dan Quinn want to imply here?
I sure as hell hope they take that step. And with Marshawn, I'm worried. I will say that I'm concerned moving into this year. I don't know if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to be the same Marshawn as he was in New Orleans. As of
Mm.
right now, it's a failed trade at last year's deadline.
Mm.
And if you look back to it right now, other than Mike Sanders, still we haven't seen for Trey Amos, but Michael Davis, that was a failed signing. So I need to see more from the secondary and specifically Marshawn before I can sit here and say, yeah, he's going to be a potential all pro. If he does play like that, then we're gonna have something special cooking on either side of the ball this year because as we know, guys, if the defense can hold teams under 21, they're gonna have a good chance to win every single ball game this year. And that's just the bottom line. So with Marshawn, I'm still remaining hopeful that he plays to the level that he can. Hopefully last year, and even I always think back with Marshawn when we look at like the USA basketball team in the Olympics, when you get embarrassed a little bit and you're a big time ball player, usually you show up. You're like, I got embarrassed a little bit. I don't like that feeling. And it
Yeah.
really brings the best out of you. I think that's what's going to happen with Marshawn. Also now, you got Mike Sanders still in your rearview mirror. You got Trey Amos in your rearview mirror. Competition always helps. And I'm really excited about Mr. Trey Amos on the outside, who I know had an excellent mini camp. So this defense, all three levels, Javon Kinlaw's huge, Deron Payne's huge. I know he had a good mini camp, but really Marshawn Lattimore, either you play up to your ability or you don't. And I think whatever he does on the outside, it's very quickly going to tell you what this defensive floor and defensive ceiling is going to be this fall.
No, you're absolutely right. I asked the question to Anthony Armstrong last week or so, saying who had the most pressure on them between Jaden, Lattimore, Debo. And I said Lattimore, and I brought up the fact that they have Mikey Sanders still to play outside, that they drafted Trey Amos. He kind of was like, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But, like, if you actually think about it, that's an option for them. And that is obviously pressure on Lattimore to be able to succeed and come back. But that being said, the latest article or rumor was by Albert Breer saying that the Commanders and Terry McLaurin, they are not in a good place right now per their the contract negotiations. Now, this is probably typical of an agent pumping out things to be able to get the ball rolling, right, so to speak. But me personally, I am not worried. This is probably the best time to not be in a good place because by the time a training camp comes around, I would imagine they are going to be in a good place. What do you say, Ryan?
Yeah, I completely agree. If Terry McLaurin is wearing another jersey this fall, I'd be beyond shocked.
Mm.
And hopefully we can see, when Terry's 45, 50 years old down the road, inducting him into the Ring of Fame and hopefully the new stadium here to come too. And I know that's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions around that as well too right now. But at the end of the day with Terry McLaurin, he's just, I know I've said it on here before, guys, but who he is as a man away from a football player. And if he comes to negotiations and says, "Hey, I want 33," and you look around the league and there's, the DK Metcalfs up there, Monroe St. Brown, AJ Brown, you go a little lower with the T. Higgins and Tyreek around the 29 to 31. Terry deserves it of whatever he wants. Put the open check and allow Terry to sign and put his number. But it is a business. And I think one thing, guys, that the regular fan base doesn't really realize, the casual eye, is it is a business. It's not just, hey, Terry McLaurin, he's so great, he's the best. Yes, that's great. And it was awesome seeing what he did last year, but the NFL is a billion-dollar business and everything has negotiation to it. And also, very quickly, you may have to pay, right? Jaden Daniels is coming up down the line. That may be upwards of $1 billion. Where the market is going, I don't know yet. So give Terry his money. Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later. You're going to have some other people to pay here soon. But bottom line, guys, I fully do expect Terry McLaurin to be good to go by week one in this offense, opposite of Debo Samuel, and putting your foot in the pedal on this NFC East.
Yeah, and if any Commanders fans are worried, like you said, they're going to get the deal done. Like Terry is the ultimate Mr. Commander, so
Yeah.
I just think that not getting that deal done would kind of send the wrong message to the locker room and what they're trying to build there. So he's one of the keystone, cornerstone guys. Like you got to pay the man. So I think it gets done.
Yeah.
But going back to the defensive side of the ball, because there's a lot of questions on the defense.
Mhm.
Last year there was a lot of questions about where the pass rush is going to come from. Dante Fowler Jr. stepped up, gave us double-digit sacks. This year we got the same questions. They didn't draft an edge rusher. They haven't brought in that the veterans of the world like the Preston Smiths, the Von Millers, the Ladarius Smiths. As of right now, who do you expect to be the sack leader for this team?
I would say Frankie Louvu, guys, as of right now. I think he's going to take a step on the edge because I know they're going to involve Jordan McGee more in the middle of this defense and allow Frankie to really
Mm.
play with his hair on fire along this front seven. So I think Frankie Louvu is really going to be a guy that can stack up sack after sack after sack last year in certain moments where he really was living as a wide nine outside the tight end at times. And that versatility, I think we all absolutely love. But I will say this, Daron Payne, I expect him to take another step this year. Javon Kinlaw, it's still up in the air as far as exactly what you're going to be. Obviously, the relationship with Adam going back to, say, San Francisco days. But that's a young man, big, fast, physical, strong, that if you could just pull out and have that light bulb really metaphorically click in his head, you may be cooking with cooking with fish grease with Javon Kinlaw. I think he's a player that can really slide up and down a defensive line, allow you to be just versatile in what you're doing from an alignment perspective. You know what you're going to get from Dietrich Wise. So, but if I had to label one person that lead this team in sacks, I mean, I hope it's Dorrance. I do as a strictly defensive lineman, but I would say Frankie Louvu right now.
All right, I love that. I know that's probably the most common denominator, right? But that
Yeah.
being said, Ryan, with the defensive line, we've hypothetically talked about possibly like Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton, and Daron Payne possibly actually getting used on the outside as a D end more
Yeah.
so than possibly the middle. How do you think that defensive line usage is going to play out, given with you thinking that Frankie's going to lead in sacks?
Yeah, I'm really excited, guys. I think they're going to deploy some bear fronts. They're going to have some three down linemen. It's going to be Payne, Kinlaw, and Johnny. And you're going to have potentially a Jordan McGee and a Frankie Louvu standing up on the outside and potentially having Bobby Wagner in the middle. So you're going to be unique as far as that five-man front, wide five. You're going to be unique in what you're doing up front. But I'm really excited to see this group, because we've talked about it. We're going to continue to talk about it. This group has got to take a step. Sometimes you got to take pressure off of Jaden Daniels' shoulders to not score 35 plus every single game. Is it nice? Absolutely. But just the versatility and the guys that they have right now up front, I'm so excited to see a healthy Jordan McGee. The guy was absolutely everywhere, 20 plus TFLs in his final year for Temple, just flying around and trusting his instincts more than, and I'll say this, more than Jamin Davis ever did at Kentucky and in his careers here in Washington. So excited to see that young man get after it. And even a guy like Kane Madrano, what is he going to be in the middle of this defense? Because I expect him at some point after being a special team core guy to get in the middle of this defense and make some plays all over the place.
Yeah, no, I feel like Johnny Newton is kind of the forgotten guy of that last year's draft class. That
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that yeah, with a full offseason of him being healthy, year two in the system, I think he's poised for a big jump as well. So I can definitely see him wreaking some havoc this year.
Yeah, Mike, I was going
Um,
to say real quick, even watching Johnny at Illinois, the way he played on the outside a little bit, and his ability to just be, he can overpower tackles and obviously just get around their outside shoulder or slide inside and be too quick for guards too. Just that, again, that versatility, just going to keep saying it. I know you guys have heard it too, but that ability to slide up and down, it allows everybody to be unique in their alignments and it just presents more problems for teams, whether you want to drop back or whether you want to just get after people in the run game. So Johnny Newton, I think, is going to take a step too.
yeah, definitely agree with that. So the offensive side of the ball, like obviously we feel like Terry's going to be there. He has 1 year in his contract, so we feel like he'll be there regardless.
Yeah.
They got Debo, but a lot of talk has been about the unlocked potential star potential of a guy like Jeremy Lane. Do you think that he's going to be a big piece for Cliff in this offense this year?
I think Jaylen is going to be
Jaylen
some.
Lane, I said Jeremy.
Yeah, oh, good. I think he's got a lot of similar skill set to what Debo does, and I love the addition when they got him out of Virginia Tech because I think what you saw for him with the Hokies last year was somebody that was used fine. I thought he was okay, but there was a lot more in the tank for Jaylen Lane, more so than just being, hey, I'm the best athlete on this offense, even though Bashal Tootin, their running back, obviously had a great combine pre-draft process, went to Jacksonville. I'm really pumped up to see Jaylen Lane because in the past, you guys remember the days of keeping 6 or 7 receivers for the Byron Pringles, the Jamison Crowders, the Alex Ericksons of the world because you needed a punt returner. Right now, the earliest path to snaps and contribution for Jaylen is likely going to be as that return specialist. But I think as of right now, also, when we get into camp, joint practices with New England and Baltimore, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Jaylen Lane outplays a Noah Brown, if he outplays a Luke McCaffrey. I wouldn't be shocked at all and potentially work into that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 spot. They drafted him to do that. They didn't just draft him to sit in the sideline, look cute, and wear a uniform. He's going to be involved in a lot of variety. He's going to be involved horizontal raid. He's going to attack vertically, and he's going to have a chance to make some opportunities for himself, especially if he's on the field and the attention's on 17 and the attention's on number 1 and Debo Samuel. So I think Jaylen Lane's going to have a huge impact this year.
My man. Now, Ryan, I hate to bring this off the field almost, but I wanted your opinion on this. Ever since the photo shoot with Jaden Daniels, everyone's been hypothetically talking about the special uniforms or whatever have you. What do you think the special uniforms throwbacks are going to be?
I have no idea, but I will say this. My favorite logo ever for the Commanders Redskins football team was the old late 60s arrow logo on the side of the helmet. I love the arrow. I don't know what's going to happen with the unis. I think as of right now, just keep the burgundy and gold thread and maybe bring back the old logo. That'd be cool. I don't know. We'll see. But I think now in 2025 and Nike involved, maybe it looks really cool, or maybe it's just really basic. Remember when Nike redid the uniforms, there were 2 teams that spent the most on reconstructing. It was the Seahawks, which completely revamped it, and it was the Commanders at number 2. But there really weren't too many changes, which was actually funny to think about. So we'll see. I hope they're clean, and we're gonna have them in prime time a lot. So maybe we debut them on one of those games.
Yeah, just bring him out against the Bears on Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
That'd be nice. But since we're talking about off the field, what's your thoughts on the whole RFK and the DC Council kind of pushing back against the Commanders? Do you think eventually they get the deal done, or do you think it's just going to be a bunch of political nonsense back and forth, and we're just stuck in limbo again?
I hate the political nonsense, guys. It's just the same thing basically that happened with, the Nats and Wizards trying to get their stadium down by Old Town. It's just, I wish it could be, hey, we agreed to it. It's going to happen. We're going to build it. This is what's going to happen. So I think ultimately it gets done, hopefully at RFK. There's so much history in that stadium and in that area. It would obviously be a great spot, similar to how the Southeast area down by Anacostia has built up from Nats Park being there since '08. I hope it gets done. I hope the political stuff can be put to the side and just the betterness of the organization in this city. Because as you guys know, just really the DMV in the entirety is just so sports hungry. Doesn't matter if it's the NFL, it could be high school football, it could be college with Maryland, it could be anything. So just getting a nice, beautiful stadium there, have an environment where everything around it, people are partying, people are excited to see Jaden Daniels. Maybe you're in a Super Bowl here near in the future, maybe lifting a Lombardi trophy. I just hope it gets done sooner rather than later. But as we know with these things, there's people here, and they go at each other. It's just hopefully that stuff can calm down here sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, sir. Now, Ryan, to wrap this up, only a couple more questions for you, sir. But vacation plans. What are your? I know that you just got back from your honeymoon not too long ago, and
Yeah,
congratulations again to
thank
you,
you.
sir. But I know you're. Are you? I'm not sure. Do you have another vacation planned, or if you did, what would be your spot and what would be your things to do?
Ooh, yeah. So I just came back from my honeymoon. I went to a friggin' wedding in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's not a vacation destination. I'll tell you that right now. I'm heading down to the Eastern Shore here in a couple weeks. That's the only vacation I have planned, and then my actual plan is to get down, hopefully, to training camp a little bit. But if I could, maybe a dream vacation. Is that what you're kind of
Yeah,
asking? Dream vacation?
yeah.
Um, I think maybe it's down to Florida or something like that just for now, or maybe go head on back to Hawaii. I feel like that place is just another planet. I really enjoyed my time out there. So I'll say Florida, Hawaii, somewhere warm. I know it's been absolutely hot as you know what the last week or so, but just getting out, enjoying the summertime, enjoying people, having some drinks, some good food, good people, good times in general.
All right, now let's bring this back to the football field. Sorry about that. I'm currently in the middle with Verizon. It's a whole thing with my cell phone. My cell phone's been falling apart, and a friend from church gave me a phone, and I'm trying to get that coordinated. It's a whole thing, but with the new shape of the offensive line, right at this point, we know Laramie Tunsil's slided in as the starting left tackle. We got Brandon Coleman at left guard, waiting for Cosme to come back, of course, and then hopefully we don't know if Josh Conley's going to be starting right away, but at least he might be able to be in a rotation kind of tandem like we saw last year with Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas. But that being said, what do you think the identity of the offensive line is going to be? Because last year it was very hard to be able to pick up on that identity. At times they were seeming ferocious and they were ground and pound, but then it seemed like that kind of relaxed a little bit. If you were to look in your head and look ahead, what do you think that identity is going to be?
I think that's a great question. Because I don't look at this group, even looking back to last year, where Cliff brought in the Allegrettis of the world, the Biotishes, to be these guys that are just vertical movers, get players off the ball. When I look at Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connolly specifically, it's the lower half that really pops off the screen for me, and their ability to expand this run game, excuse me, and then just drop anchor against 235 or drop anchor against 265 on the edge and make things easy. So I think an identity, I think they are going to try to run the ball. I think at some point in time, you're going to have to run the ball successfully, specifically as you get towards the winter time. But I think overall, just you didn't bring in Laramie Tunsil to just, keep Jaden Daniels on his back. You kept him upright, right? He's a potential all pro. And then you drafted Josh in the first round to counter some of the best teams in the NFC, specifically that team up here in Philadelphia and their ability to get after the quarterback a little bit. So I think overall, the identity, I'm not going to sit here and everyone talks about the offensive line is just guys that can move people off the ball and dominate the ground game and churn 5-5-5. But I think their ability to just sit and pass pro if you have to drop back 35, 40 times a game and just make it easy on Jaden Daniels. Give him just a couple extra seconds, whether he wants to create with his arm or with his legs, just to expand that playbook a little bit more, allow those guys also to get out in space a little bit. I think that's really going to be the identity, if that makes sense. It's a really athletic
Okay.
group, the ability to expand the playbook, both east, west, and north, south.
All right, I'm with you there. Last one. I hate to end this on this note, Ryan, but what would be a surprise cut candidate in your opinion?
Ooh, surprise cut. I wouldn't say Michael Gallup. As of right now, I don't know if he's gonna be here. Man, a surprise. Uh, Honestly, I might go to the hmm, receiver room. As of right, I mean, it would be a surprise. It would be a surprise. So we're gonna go surprise. I'm not gonna be boring here. Noah Brown. I'll say Noah Brown. I think that would be surprising as of right now, what we expect him to be. Obviously, injured in minicamp. All the signs look like he's going to be okay. I know that hasn't been an official word, but as far as a surprise, I really like this roster. I do. But I would say him, and I'll also throw in Percy Butler. I think we're trying to see some steps from him this year, but I would say also Percy Butler on the back end because I wouldn't be shocked at all, guys, if potentially they bring in a guy or two at edge or potentially another spot, maybe corner as well from teams that cut some of these guys here in the near future.
Okay. That being said, are you concerned at all about the injuries to wide receiver? Obviously, Michael Gallup got injured, and
Yeah.
then Noah Brown. We won't know until training camp. Is that a big concern for you right now?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Terry's not out there the issues, if there are any, right, with Debo, all the attention really in the mini camps and OTAs has been on, damn, look at Jaylen Lane or Ja'Cory Brooks or Chris Moore was sensational. We came off a year, obviously, when Olamide and De'Ami Brown were elevated by Jaden Daniels, and I really could care less who's out there for Jaden, but you elevated the talent at the position for a reason. So I am a little bit concerned, but I think as we get into August and September and week one rolls around against the New York Giants in that divisional matchup to kick off the year at home, fully expected to be Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, and some combination of Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Jaylen Lane as your top five guys for this group. But right now, I would say so. A little bit worried. Absolutely. I want everybody healthy and available for sure.
My man. Now, to wrap this up, last thing, your social media handle and I'm not sure, are you still doing a show?
Yes, Commanding the Huddle. Absolutely. That is my show. My
Okay.
show is still one time a week in the off season, two times a week during the regular season.
And your social media handle, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Underscore Ryan Fowler is where you can find me if you don't follow me there already.
Yes, and Ryan, God bless you, sir. Good luck to you. I'm sure that whatever you have before this, you got something coming down the pipeline. Obviously, you leaving the draft network, and it sucks that you had to leave that, which is I like the draft network and a lot of what they do, brother. And I don't want you to say anything bad about them, of course,
No,
but
I left on my terms.
okay,
So
my
it's
man.
on my terms. Did everything I need to do with TDN. Appreciate them for the journey. But it's onward and forward for that.
Absolutely. Well, good luck to you, sir, and keep us
Absolutely.
updated. I'm sure you will. You're such a good friend of the show that you
Of
will.
course.
I appreciate your time as always, being able to come on here and join us, brother. I hope you have a great Sunday and enjoy your week.
Of course. Appreciate you guys as always.
Sure,
Have a good
appreciate it.
forward.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with Ryan, and he had a lot of things to say, especially about the Debo thing. And I love that because Janky Rondo, he's got a pair on him, man. Going into that, I'm not gonna say the Lions' den, but you knew it was unfriendly territory,
It
and
was going to
that's
be lines in as far as a Twitter reaction. What was it going to be?
yeah. Well, look. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with Janky.
Nah,
Want,
people just jealous. That's really what it come down to.
you're 100% right. You're 100% right. It's envy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. And which that just sucks for Janky because I would tell him take every opportunity that comes to you, man. You
Hell
never
yeah.
you never know how long they're gonna come by, and so you got to be able to make sure that you're taking those
And
in.
look, at the end of the day, he's a content creator, like an NFL content creator. Like he's a Commanders fan, but he's not just solely a Commanders content creator. So if other teams are hitting him up, other players are hitting him up, why would you not take that opportunity to expand your brand and get yourself out there even more? So yeah, shout out to Janky, and if you're hating on him for doing the Eagles stuff, just I don't know, just be better, be better.
Be better. Absolutely. Now, the next question that we have submitted was from Deluxe. He sent this in 2 days ago, and I missed it when I had to go to church, of course. But his question is, Hall, what edge rushers that have been paid significant contracts have experienced playoff or Super Bowl success in the last decade? Would an analytics team advise for or against signing/trading for an elite edge rusher and paying top dollar on a contract extension? Wouldn't roster construction analytics include historically successful allocation of resources? Granted, analytics is just a piece of the decision.
Yeah. I think it just so happens that the top guys like the Max Crosbys, the Miles Garrett's of the world, you could put Michael Parsons in that list when he's about to get his money. I just think it just happens though that they just play for bad teams, and usually when bad teams have great players like that, they don't want to let those great players go, so they're just going to keep racking up money for that team and that franchise. So I don't really think it's like, yeah, I do think, like you said, analytics is part of the equation, and cap allocation and all that stuff is part of the equation. But I mean, you can go back to Nick Bosa. He got paid when he was the highest paid pass rusher in the league. He was a DPOY candidate or like something like that, playing for a playoff team contender, Super Bowl contender. So I just think that it just so happens that a lot of the top guys are not playing for really good teams right now or good playoff teams right now. So it gets a little bit amplified as far as like how much they're getting paid and how much the team is actually winning and how much they actually contribute to that winning. But I mean, if they would have traded for Max Crosby, traded for Miles Garrett, signed a big time pass rusher somehow, some way, I don't think that we'd be looking at it as fans like, oh, they gave all that money to the pass rusher. is it really going to equal success for the defense? I think everyone this offseason was like, hey, we need that big time pass rusher to kind of make that next step for the defense. So I just think it's circumstance right now. And yeah, I just think that, I mean, look, the Cowboys could randomly turn it around this year. Michael Parsons is going to be getting paid 40 million plus. I know it's hypothetical, but I'm just saying they could be a playoff team. And then you'd be looking at it as, okay, Michael Parsons got paid. He clearly probably contributed to that defense and that team and the win total. So it kind of equals itself out. But I just think it's circumstance right now that some of the top guys are just not really playing for successful franchises.
Yeah, it's a legitimate question because if you look at guys like Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, in just the recent memory, that argument there is a legitimate case for it. When looking historically, we talked about it where Dwight Freeney, the other one was Von Miller. Both of those guys, Von Miller obviously for Denver, Dwight Freeney for the Colts, were both on their rookie deals when they won those Super Bowls. So it just adds further strength to the case to say, do you truly need one of those top tier edge rushers to do well? Like Aaron Donald, for example, Chris Jones for Kansas City Chiefs. You need a dominant DT if you're not going to have those edge rushers to be able to have that kind of production from your defensive line to be able to be successful, right? I mean, even looking back last year to Philly, did Philly have a top-tier pass rusher? No, they did have a rotation of guys, which makes a lot of sense, in my personal opinion. And that's why it kind of is calming down with the edge rusher, because that's something that I have been voicing my concern over. But at the end of the day, we have to look back to what happened last year, and it was, were we really expecting Dante Fowler to have 10+? Were we really expecting for Frankie Louvu to have close to 10 sacks coming from the linebacker position? And that's where I think that they deserve the trust of what we're going to do, in my personal opinion. It's a fantastic question.
I would also add that, like, to your point about like Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, like the NFL's kind of shifted over the years to where, like, yes, you need like an edge guy to like rush off the edge, go against your left tackle, the right tackle, whatever it may be, come off the edge and make the quarterback step up. But a lot of that interior pass rush has really been like the focal point of like defenses and offensive coordinators trying to stop that interior pass rush, because I feel like it's a lot easier for the quarterback to step up in the pocket than it is for him to get that rush in the middle of his face. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of goes to the point of, do you really need that dominant edge if you have a dominant D tackle? But I just feel like majority of the teams that are playoff contenders, Super Bowl contenders, whatever it may be, they have some type of dominant defensive lineman, whether it be a D tackle, an edge. Like you brought up Philly, they had a rotation at edge guys, but they also had Jalen Carter, who was just dominating the middle. So
Right.
I think that you don't really have to have an edge or a D tackle. If you had both, that'd be great. But I just think you need that one dominant player to kind of take the pressure off the other guys.
I'm with you in the sense of not just strictly from the DM position,
Right.
but on the defensive line. And I think it's inherently important that you also have the rotation of quality DNs to be able to do their job well when they need to, that they get after the quarterback. And I think that we have that on the roster right now. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong is here, who obviously could do better this season. We could definitely don't know what's going to come down the pipeline. They added Dietrich Wise. They brought in Jacob Martin and others. And so this is a big opportunity for them, and especially defensively, to see how it pans out for them. But to your point, Arch, Deluxe, that historically speaking, Super Bowl teams, and look, you talked about Nick Bosa with San Francisco. Look, they've gotten to the dance, but they haven't sealed anything. And you can make the argument that Nick Bosa typically is injured by that time. But the fact is that, overall, the Patriots really screw with the analytics of it all because of their dominant run, and they never had that kind of pass rush, of course. But this is something to take into consideration, and he's absolutely right. Maybe we do need to chill out just a little bit on the D end needing one and possibly trading for one aspect, in my personal opinion. Now, going to our next question. This one was submitted by James Bonato, my guy. I'm going to go to you first. His question is, often I see a center as he approaches the line of scrimmage before the plays start point to someone on defense. I have come to understand he is pointing at the middle linebacker to identify him to the rest of the offensive line. I believe I may have seen Badass do this. Can you explain this in more detail? Does this have to do with how they're going to block on that particular play?
Yeah, he's going to the line, pointing at the middle linebacker. trying to see just kind of where the split in the half of the field is. Um, like you said, it's more of like a hey, there's a middle linebacker, and then Jaden's kind of getting his signals, his calls, and okay, we're gonna slide the protection this way, depending on where the middle linebacker set up or where the defense is kind of shifted to. We're gonna maybe shift or we're gonna audible our protection, maybe like a max protect, or maybe some type of pulling type of play. So yeah, I just think it's like you said, it's the center coming to the line of scrimmage, pointing out the middle linebacker, and kind of letting the rest of the offense get ready to know, like, okay, hey, this is the type of protection or type of set pass set or run blocking set that we're gonna be initiating on this play.
Yeah. So when that center comes up, they are identifying the mic, because typically the mic will be the indicator. Because James, as an offense, especially on the offensive line, based on like you have different blocking assignments based on what the defense is in, right? So if you come up and it's a 4-3, the center more than likely is going to be bumping that nose tackle and then going to the middle linebacker. Let's say if it's a power right, and or if it's something more like if it's a 5-2, then they're going to be that center's going up on the nose. The guard most likely is now going up to the next, right? So a lot of the pointing that is going on is identifying where that mic is, knowing what your block is on that play for everyone else, and that's what they're trying to identify. But also there's another layer to it where there have been centers who actually can shift the protection if it's a pass play. If they see that oncoming blitz from somewhere else, they can point that out to say, they have a code word to say, to move the protection left. Instead of everyone basically coming back into their 5, they could have the one left tackle stay where he's at. Everyone else kind of move to their right, expecting another rusher coming on that right side. So there's a lot of layers to it. But for the most part, he is identifying where that mic is, what the blocking assignments are going to be for everyone else just by using that code word or whatever have you, what they practiced. If there's something new come down the pipeline, like they kind of talk about on the sidelines, get it set up for the next series. So I think that a lot of it has to do with just identifying and then everyone being, that's why cohesion on the offensive line is very important. So everyone is on the same page when things are identified, so that way you don't have confusion, right? That could lead to a blocked protection. That could lead to a blown up run play. So everyone is doing where they're supposed to be. They're all supposed to be in lockstep. It's supposed to be one vehicle, so to speak, out all the tires moving together, and that's essentially what the center is doing. And that's why centers, there's been people that have said that centers are way more important, and I personally believe that. I know Logan Paulson is not a huge fan of guards, but they do have. There is an important aspect to it.
Yeah, some people say they're the smartest linemen on the entire line, just because you got to know all the protections. If you have a young quarterback, he's got to know all the different calls, different sets to help that young quarterback out along his process. Luckily, Jaden was a little bit advanced in his process, so I feel like him and Biotis were kind of working as a tandem. But we've seen over the years with a guy like Dwayne Haskins or Taylor Heineke, when we had Chase Rouillet, who was another top center in the league that was for us, he was really, really good at coming out, identifying the mic, calling out the protections, calling out the different type of alignments, and really just helping that quarterback not really have to think about all the pre-snap process type of stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was a great question, James. Now, the next question that we have submitted was in the Discord, and I have to go back to find it. There we go. It's loading up right now. That was from Jeff Miles that sent it to us earlier. He said, while we definitely want him at his best, I am tired of the over-exaggerated comments regarding Debo. Can you compare Debo's worst year statistically to any wide receiver 2 we've had for the past 10 years and how those wide receiver 2s panned out for us? You don't have to literally read off stats, laugh, but just naming a couple just to prove the point.
Yeah, I think that maybe it was last year. Maybe it was like Debo's like worst year of his career, like down year as far as like without being injured and playing like an X amount of games, like minimum games.
So
But
last year he had 51 receptions, 670 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
yeah, so I'd probably say that's
But
statistically.
in
Uh,
2020, he had 33 receptions, 391 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Okay, and I feel like he was probably banged up that year because that's like crazy, like stats for a guy like that. That was in the first couple of years of his career as well. So he was probably banged up that year. But
It's similar to
yeah,
what Debo had. Not Debo. Diami had last year, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
exactly. I would say that as our wide receiver two, like his numbers, if you want to combine the rushing and the receiving, that the potential that he has, I do think that he'll probably be our best like number two wide receiver that we've had since that I can probably remember. You can probably go back to Dotson, his rookie year alongside Terry, where he was on pace to be close to 1,000-yard receiver. Obviously, got banged up and injured, and never really kind of bounced back to the player that he was in the first half of the season. But um, I guess Noah Brown, you could look at Noah Brown, what he did last year. He didn't really have like the yardage and the receptions that you would have liked, but if you add in all the down the field pass interference yardage that he accumulated, then you could add that as well. But yeah, I think that just with him motivated, him almost kind of the perfect fit for this offense, and just kind of Cliff being the evil, like offensive mad genius that he's been known to be with these type of players, that I do think that we're in for a close to 1,000, if not over 1,000 yards combined for Debo, and obviously that would make him the best number two wide receiver we've had since, like I said, maybe going back to Dotson the first half of the year, a couple years ago.
I would say probably Pierre Garcon
Oh, Pierre Garcon,
and
yeah,
Deshaun
and
Jackson.
Deshaun
That's
Jackson,
probably
yeah,
the go-to. The
that
sunlight is
was
killing my
yeah.
face right now.
Both had 2,000 yards, so yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, the sun. If you're watching a video, I'm sorry. For some reason, the sun
You
is
got
just
that,
literally perfectly coming through the side of this curtain right now.
Jerry Jones Sunday afternoon shine on you right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. Look, there's that's going to have taking a lot of passing yards. I interviewed Sam on Friday. He talked about last year Zach Ertz had 90 receptions, right? At times it was hard to get Terry the football. It was, and to be honest, and I don't think that's going to be an issue this year, especially with the addition of Debo Samuel. That being said, there's only one football to go around. Jaden is the one with the decision maker to have to go in. At this point, I would give the same supporting message that I did to Debo that I did to Daami last year was, don't worry about the statistics. Just do whatever you can to help the football team win games. And as much as Debo wants to get paid and everything like that, the one thing you don't want to have happen is that he's putting those expectations on himself, and then he starts pressuring others, meaning Jaden and Cliff, to give him the ball more. When in reality, it's just let's just help the team win football games. That, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I know that he wants to get paid and everything, but that being said, Debo is a weapon, regardless of what Brandon Graham has to say. As much as Brandon Graham is a big human being, Debo Samuel going against secondary members at his size is no easy feat for them to tackle, especially with his power. And I am happy that he made those comments. I don't think that we have anything to worry about, especially because we have 5 under center. And regardless of what we have, that's just adding more weapons into the arsenal, so to speak. But that's going to wrap us up for this episode, guys. I'm sorry. I have to get going. I have to go to Verizon. I need to get cell service on my old phone, at least for work tomorrow. But I appreciate you all for tuning in, for joining us. Thank you to James. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Arch, for your questions. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are champions. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. I appreciate you all. Please comment your answers to what we have. I know that somebody commented on our old video today from a couple weeks ago, saying I had to turn it off after all 3 of you guys used the word underestimated, and that's not a word. And so I was like, but dude, like the question that was asked used George W. Bush's misunderestimated in the quote. It was from the Colonel. I know because he always asks that. And so like I was like, you're acting like we just willfully did that on our own to do. No, it's from the question. It's a joke. We're going along with it. So, but we still want to hear from you. As much as you want to give us gripe, you want to give us crap for what goes on in here. Please comment. We'd love to hear from you. I like to see what you guys had to say, good or bad. It makes me laugh. It does.
That was pretty funny.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Go and follow us on Twitter. Subscribe if you can. We appreciate you guys if you are. doing that. We love you all. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.
Glad that you had a good vacation haul with the baby. Looked like she had a great time as well.
Yeah, man. Was out there catching some fish with the father-in-law. Baby enjoyed the beach. Kids didn't want to ever leave and come back. So you know how that is.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, every time you go on vacation, you start seeing the houses around there, and
Yeah.
like you see what it's like around there. You're like, I think I wanna.
Oh,
And
I
that's
was
what
telling
kind
you.
of happened to us when we vacationed over Rehoboth. We were like, dude, this place is awesome.
Oh, I'm telling you, we were looking at the houses because they're in the process of like a whatever reason. There's a big boom going down. You ever go to Oak Island? Great family place. I recommend it. But they're in the process of like a big boom right now, and the prices on them houses. Like I said, I was telling you, Courtney was looking up like what is the average salary of a teacher because these houses are looking like unturned downable if they're really like the
Right.
prices they say they are. So it's crazy.
All right, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Have a good, safe week. Enjoy it. We appreciate you all. I'm Kyle.
I'm whole.
Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.